Hey, welcome to the Infinity Bros podcast, the only podcast that is perfectly balanced as all things should be. Here on a beautiful Friday evening, grateful you're here. I, Max Mosier, your host for today's episode, am back. Thank you for joining us again. I'm sorry I was gone last week. We hit record lows in recordings because Jarret, who's also on this episode right now, is hosting. Jarret, how are you doing, and how are you feeling about the complete collapse of last week's episode?
Oh my gosh. I'll tell you what, it's not my proudest work, but Zayne put in the extra effort. Alan put in the extra effort, so it was salvageable. That being said, I think I am ready to take over your responsibilities. I just think, wasn't my greatest run, but now that I've seen kind of a taste of what you do, I realize it's really not that hard, and I probably could do it better.
Yeah, except you don't know how to keep a rhythmic episode going in regards to segments, you giant jerk.
It's fine. Put it wherever you want.
Yeah, literally, I'm like editing this, and we'll get to the other guests in a minute. Come on, people. We're like 10 seconds in the show. There's somebody out there right now who's like, well, who else is on? Who else is on right now? I just need to know who's on. And Jarret's like, yeah, you know what? We'll just put the top 5 right in the middle.
That
just
was
put
the
it
best
wherever.
part.
It's fine.
When they got done with the top 5 and they kept going, I was like, wait a minute. Like, wait, it's not over yet? Wait a minute.
It's supposed to be over. Infinity Bro Isaac, you're here. Hi, Isaac.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Were you like me and just rattled to the core that the top 5 last week was in the middle of your episode?
I was absolutely rattled. So great job, Jarret, on throwing everybody off.
It felt to me like I'm getting Culver's and I'm having my French fries first, then my custard, and then my cheese curds, or my burger. Like it felt significantly out of order. That
sounds great, though.
It's a great meal. Don't get me wrong. And like last week's episode, we make fun of it, but it was good. And here's why last week's episode is so special, people. Sure, Alan was on. He's great. Alan Cruz, we love you. You're great. But Zayne was on last week, and he did such a good job that Infinity Bro Zayne decided, I'm going to go 2 weeks in a row. Infinity Bro Zayne is back. Zayne, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I like to think that sometimes you got to ride the hot hand. And, I am the hottest commodity in the Infinity Bros universe right now. So we just got to ride that wave.
Do you consider yourself a pair of kings, pair of aces, pair of queens? What kind of hot hand are we talking here?
Oh, man. I mean, I think you got to go pair of aces here. It's very unique.
You're not unique, but...
incredibly unique.
I would say your value is the same as a pair of aces.
You know what? I'll take it.
Yeah.
So is Zayne the Infinity Bros ace in the hole? Is that what?
Yes.
These pocket aces in the hole there.
That's right.
Pocket rockets.
I'm just ready to go. I'm the utility man here. You need me on an episode, I'm there. You need me to do some modeling, I'm there. You need me some, some quick quips on a stream, I'm there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm the Nick Punto of the Infinity Bros. Okay.
Somebody hose this man off. He's on fire.
Oh man, yeah, I agree, Zayne. You are the Nick Punto. That is a reference. But you didn't come to this episode to hear crappy old school twins from the mid 2000s. You came here to hear about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Welcome to the Infinity Bros podcast. Wherever you're listening, however you're listening, thanks for making us part of your day, week, or month. And know that Isaac cannot say that sentence in a coherent sentence, and neither can Jarret. So I think I'll stay hosting for a while until those two can figure it out.
The one thing I did do right was the introduction.
You actually crushed the introduction.
Hey, I can nail an intro. It's the outro that I can't.
Yeah.
I literally cannot put together an outro to save my life, and I don't know why that is.
We've had episodes where like Isaac's done 5 takes, and I've had to edit the 5th one.
It's pretty bad.
And it sounds great. Like it sounds like Isaac just crushed it, but in editing,
thanks to the editing of our lovely Max Mosier.
I did think you did a great job last week, Jarret. I have to tell you.
Thank you.
I thought you did a great job.
I appreciate that.
And I thought that you guys handled Alan well. Yes, very, very good episode. Alan was a treat. Alan Falcon was one of our better guests I think we've had on in a long time. So, yeah, we're excited. We're going to talk about Falcon Winter Soldier. We talked about that. This is going to be a spoiler review. We're going to share our non-spoiler review at the top. So if you haven't heard it yet and you're just dying to know what we think, I don't blame you. We're going to share those right out the gate. And then we will do a spoiler review and finish the show with our top 5 moments from this episode. But to give you some IMDb info and talk about this show first, this is directed by Kerry Skoglund, and something that Marvel's done with both shows now, WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, is they're having one person be in charge, air quotes, of all of this under Kevin Feige. We saw this last episode with Matt Jackman. We're seeing this now here with Kerry Skoglund. In an interview, Kerry Skoglund said with 2Fab, she said, "What's great about having 6 hours is that if you get to spend more time with the characters, so by definition, you're going to get more intimate with them. Find out where they live, how they're feeling, what they're doing. In the movies, which I call the snack, in the movies, the meal, you're kind of driven by the fact that they're in some form saving the world. It's really hard to take time out to explore character before the stakes are so high in the moment." She goes on to say, "Both Anthony and Sebastian really dove in and loved exploring. We did a lot of ad-lib, a lot of improving, and a lot of script work, or rehearsals and such, so that we could really explore the characters to the fullest that we could." She goes on to say she promises that we're going to talk a lot about trauma and grief. This is another Marvel Cinematic Universe Disney Plus series that's going to go down that route. I wonder how much after Endgame that will be a theme in other shows. But also the big question, and we're going to talk about this more towards the back of it, is Sam going to take the shield? What is it for a black man to take on the shield? Does he want it? What is the shield? What does it represent? And all these questions are percolating around. This one obviously stars Anthony Mackie coming back again as the Falcon. What the heck's going on here? There we go. Okay. Sebastian Stan returning as Bucky Barnes, a.k.a. the Winter Soldier. Wyatt Russell starring as John Walker, U.S. agent. Aaron Kellyman playing Carly Morgenthau. Jarret, we're going to ask you a little later who you think that character might be. Desmond Chiam, who's playing Dovich. Adibaro Oduye playing Sarah Wilson. And Miki Ishikawa playing Leah, who took a date with the Winter Soldier this last episode. Daniel Bruhl's back as well. Emily Van Camp as Zemo and Sharon Carter. We didn't get to see them this episode, though. That was kind of a bummer. Spoiler alert for that. And a slew of other people as well. We'll talk about them as we get closer to other episodes. This was a 47-minute runtime. It'll be 6 episodes total. Again, they're going with the 6 hours of film approach, and that doesn't really add up if this is the average. It comes out to more of a 3.5, 4 hours, but that's neither here nor there. There's 16 different writers credited to this, so you can check out IMDb as well. So make sure you look into that. But before we get into our ratings, I'd love to know what your guys' expectations are of this. After WandaVision, Zayne, where are your expectations with Falcon and the Winter Soldier in this series going into it?
Personally, I was more excited for this than I was for WandaVision. And so I think coming from WandaVision, what we saw there, a very good story unfolded, and everything that they wanted to tell was told to kind of set stuff up. So I'm just kind of taking that and running with it. And it really, I don't necessarily think it's exceeding expectations or anything, but it set the bar pretty high that I was already excited for. And so now I think that it'll just continue right on with Falcon and Winter Soldier, even though it's just has its own vibe, its own genre, it's gonna have its own theme. It's still its own thing, but I think it took the baton and it's just gonna keep running.
Jarret, what about you, man?
I think rolling into this, like Zayne said, WandaVision left such a cultural impact on us and set an expectation of the quality that we're going to see going forward from the MCU and the TV shows, right? This isn't Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., this isn't, God forbid, Inhumans, this is something wholly different. And rolling into this, at least from the previews that we had seen, the trailers we had coming into this, it felt like a continuation of stories like The Winter Soldier. And I think my hype was at that level. I was rolling into this saying, I'm going to get that level of production, those level of writing, fight scenes, all of that. And that stands as one of the top echelon of not just Marvel movies, but superhero movies in general, or action movies in general. So yeah, hype going into this was absolutely high, through the roof.
The director actually does say, Isaac, that she understands going into this, and this obviously comes after WandaVision, which I think gave her a little more clarity and perspective, that fans are really going for try to figure out where these shows are going. I think this show is a little different from WandaVision, surrounding the mystery of what was Westview and whatnot, and obviously Mephisto, playing Mephisto's advocate, Mark Jones. But she knows that there's this idea of being engaged to the point of speculation running rampant. Are you in that posture right now, or has WandaVision really died down that expectation for you?
I think just with the different vibe that Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to give us, we won't get quite as much speculation. WandaVision almost played off as a psychological thriller, and we were just left guessing every week as to what was going on. I don't think there's going to be quite as much mystery in this show, but I'm on the same boat as Zayne. As I have actually been more hyped for Falcon and Winter Soldier than I have any of the other Marvel Disney Plus shows announced up until this point. And the reason for that being Baron Zemo. This dude was incredible in Civil War, underrated MCU villain, and I'm really excited to see him come back. So yeah, I'm really super hyped for this show, and I don't think it's going to garner the amount of online hype that WandaVision did just because of all the speculation that was going on. But I think it's going to be a super solid show. I might end up liking it more than WandaVision, I think. So we'll see how it all plays out. But super hyped for it.
I feel pretty confident I'll end up liking it more than WandaVision just because of how I felt about the ending of WandaVision. You can hear about those thoughts on previous episodes if you want to go back and take a look. No, I'm with you guys. I think my expectations are tempered a little bit because of WandaVision. I thought that they would maybe try to go for gold a little more and do more connecting than they did. I was pleasantly surprised with this episode, which we'll talk about in a bit, but just that's something that I want to see. I think with these TV shows, you can bring in lower paced, lower air quotes important characters, and that's one of my expectations I have of all these shows. But I have to temper that based on the previous experiences with WandaVision. I really, really, really want to see where they can take these two characters of Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I want to see what they're going to do with them. And I really want to see a post-blip world through the lens of a spy espionage thriller, and that's what this is going to be. So I think this totally is the palate cleanser we need with the direction we've headed and the direction we're going with Loki. Obviously, with Black Widow coming up in a couple of weeks is what they're courting right as of right now. March 29th is March 19th, excuse me, is the plan. I'm just interested to see that, but we're going to go ahead and dive into our non-spoiler review real quick. But we want to make sure if this is your first time listening to us that you are familiar with our rating system. So we're going to go ahead and put that bumper right here.
Here on the Infinity Bros podcast, everything is ranked from a 0 to 6 point scale. 0 meaning horrible, and 6 meaning absolutely excellent. If all of the Infinity Bros rank something a 6, it gets an Infinity Step.
All right, and remember, we're not going to talk spoilers just yet, so we're going to go back to you, Zayne. Zayne, will you give us your rating and your early non-spoiler thoughts of what Episode 1 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier was for you?
I'm going to give it a solid 5 out of 6. I thought it started in solid. It gave us what we wanted of, it's not going to lull us to sleep. We aren't going to have any, questions of what's going on. It hit the ground running right away. We got action sequence. We got, hey, we're starting right away. Here's where everyone's at. This is where, the story of Falcon and Bucky is taking off. And yeah, I thought it was a good starting point of introducing everything, what people are going through and the mindset of what is kind of being presented. And so yeah, I give it a solid 5 out of 6. It set out to, establish, be that first episode. And I thought it did that very, very well to get the story going.
Jarret, what about yourself?
Yeah, fantastic. It moved me in ways that I wasn't expecting, and we'll get into that more in the spoiler review, but it paid off on some of the things that we had had been hoping for. Like I said, I was ready for this to pay homage to things like Captain America, the Winter Soldier, right? And what that movie did very well is beautiful cinematography, incredible action scenes, and great writing, like story-filled, emotionally driven writing. And we got that in spades. I think it was cool that they introduced really likable new characters, and that we'll dive into that some more. But like, it did things that I expected, but it did them even better than I expected them to be. I actually came into this being like, okay, I'm riding the high of WandaVision. Didn't end the way I wanted it to, but I still had very high hopes for this. And this first episode paid off in ways that I didn't expect. It didn't give me everything I wanted in the first episode, but beggars can't be choosers. I'm still very, very happy with the results. 6 out of 6.
I'll go next, Isaac, and then I'll let you close us out. I really, really enjoyed this episode. I'm with you, Zayne. I think it's a 5 out of 6. Ironically, this is a weird piece of feedback, but it was short, but it was still slow paced. I think there was a little bit middle section there where, and I'm glad they did it for this. What I would perceive right now is the next 5 episodes are going to be really telling a really thought-provoking, very detailed, very connected story between multiple organizations, groups, characters, villains, etc., etc., etc. So I think they really had to lay a lot of the groundwork for that. And so I wasn't a fan of the pacing, but I obviously understand it. The action in this is fantastic. This actually, I agree with you, Jarret. I love the assessment you had. Unbelievably emotional. This is so much more nostalgic filled for what the MCU was than WandaVision is. WandaVision really just relies on, I think, Wanda's grief, whereas this one is, I'm feeling the grief of several characters in this, and I'm feeling them grieve more than Wanda. It kind of took us a while with WandaVision. If you haven't seen it, forgive me, but I'm going to talk a little spoilers here. It took her kind of to the middle and the end of that show to really articulate her grief. And there were some things that we were seeing that we didn't understand she was saying. Some we obviously did, but with this, it's much more clear without using words what and who they're grieving, and I really appreciated that. And I also love how they are past the honeymoon stage of the blip. This is staged 6 months at the timeline after the blip occurs, and I like that everybody is kind of back to being a bunch of jerks in the MCU, and I think that's an interesting way to look at it, and I think I find that fascinating. I think it was a good idea, and that's a direction I'm cool with them going. So I'm 5 out of 6. Not a perfect episode by any means, but a great first episode. I'm very pleased with how the MCU is starting these, but after WandaVision, I will tell you I'm going to be very critical if this ending is not good. I'm very, very concerned that this will not land the way WandaVision, in my opinion, didn't land. So go ahead, Isaac.
First episodes are always kind of hard to rank for me because a lot of these episodes, I mean, WandaVision included, I mean, they're building to the end of the season, so you can't really see the whole picture, especially with these Disney Plus shows where they're releasing them weekly. We can't just binge the whole show and then look back on this first episode. So it's a little difficult for me just without seeing the whole picture, but I think I would give it a 5.5 out of 6. I continue to be amazed at the production quality of these shows. I mean, they could have taken, a TV route and gone with the CW route and had really terrible special effects and just relied on storytelling, but they didn't do that. They spent millions of dollars on these episodes to make them super high quality, and you can absolutely see that in all of the action scenes, starting off with a bang right away. And Zayne said it, I mean, this episode hits the ground running, and you do get a little bit more character depth that I was really expecting in this episode, but I think it's leading to something awesome down the road. So I'm all for it. Loved everything about it. I just can't wait for more. I think it's hard for me to give it a 6 out of 6 when I can't see the whole picture. So loved it though. It's a great start to the season, and I'm really excited to see where it leads.
From this point on, this is your spoiler warning. So we're going to go ahead and put the spoiler bumper right here.
This is...
Prepare yourself.
and Infinity Bros.
Prepare yourself.
Spoiler. Warning.
What did you guys think of 6 months after the honeymoon of the blip? Let's talk about this. We're dropped right into it. They don't outright say 6 months after the blip, but it's definitely implied throughout the episode. How did you guys feel about that? I alluded to it in my review. What did you think of that?
I think it's cool to see the post-blip world and how it's affected like normal everyday people as much as it has everyone else. And we saw that a little bit in WandaVision, but they really dive into it. In like in a really casual way as well. There's the scene in the bar where Bucky's on his date and she, casually mentions like, hey, have you been dating since half the fish in the sea came back? And I think that's a really cool way to do it, in the same way that they had the sort of support group in Endgame, right? Where it's like, this feels like a lived in world. It doesn't feel like an afterthought or something they just shoved in. It seems natural and flows progressively. And I thought that was really cool to see.
I loved how this episode starts, and really, like, the third lead character of this episode, and this is just a credit to the MCU and their storytelling, is Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers is in this episode so significantly, yet Chris Evans only has a line that was copied and pasted essentially from Endgame. How was his presence felt from you, Zayne, in this episode? Where did you feel it most? Where did it really tug at your heartstrings? Was it in the scenes towards the beginning, or was it kind of throughout watching our two lead characters, Falcon and Winter Soldier, essentially suffer? And we'll talk more about that as we go through the episode.
Yeah, no, like, it was interesting just to see the threads that he had, because you could tell so much of the impact he had, and not just the impact he's had on, Falcon and Bucky, but even just as from a cultural icon that, like, everyone's coming back, everyone's adjusting to a new life, and you just have this aspect of like, well, we don't have Captain America anymore, but you still, it became like the embodiment of what it is. Like, I always like to go back to the line that's always used in Sandlot of heroes get remembered, but legends never die. And
yeah, buddy,
you don't have Captain America anymore, but everything he represented, all of his ideals, and just he was just a great icon. Like, it feels like that doesn't die. And even he got that with Sam, and just like the shield, even in the line of like, it doesn't feel like it's mine. And you could tell that throughout the episode of just like, I want to donate this, not because that it's more important to, be in a museum for someone to look at it. It was, I took it seemed more of a, I'm giving this because it doesn't belong to me. And I think that's something that they really hit on this first episode. And I'm excited to see where it goes in further episodes, of realizing that just like the idea of Captain America is bigger than just what Steve, like those ideals that he, embodied, and just that transition of Sam finally seeing of just like, all right, it's more than just a shield, that it's not, an item that just belongs to someone. Like, there's way more to it. And I think, it's just, you have those strings of everyone that Captain America and Steve's, that he touched all these people's lives and had that impact. And so like, they lost their friend too, and lost their mentor, and lost, a great icon. And it's something that they have to figure out how to move past that, and kind of their place in society now.
It is remarkable to me the impact that Steve Rogers has in particular as Captain America, because at least in the eyes of Falcon and Winter Soldier in this episode, it's very clear and obvious that those two are synonymous together. Like, Sam's decision to give up the shield stems from the fact that Steve made it the symbol it was. And obviously we dive deeper and later into the episode to kind of see more of what I think Sam's motivations will be down the line, in particular with racial reconciliation in this country, in particular with, where his current family is at and how the country is treating him, and the fact that he isn't getting paid to do what he does, which I thought was an interesting line. And side note to that, Infinity Bro Mark wanted us to share that, like, this absolutely puts back on the table, if what Falcon says about that is true, how did Vision pay for the house that Wanda got? And I think that's a very reasonable question. I'm not trying to bring that back into the conversation unintentionally. I think it's a real conversation that, I'm not saying it's Mephisto. I mean, you could think that if you're listening, but
I totally thought that's what you were saying.
That's a fascinating storyline that I think we might see down the line is this Skrulls? Is this government trying to take back this power and authority that the Avengers clearly took in Avengers, Infinity War, Civil War, Age of Ultron? Isaac, for you, I mean, Zayne brought up the great line of how does it feel like it's someone else? It's like it's someone else's. It isn't. My gosh, I mean, that line was so powerful in Endgame, but it feels amplified in this episode. How did you respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it in your non-spoiler review. Like, you feel the grief of not just Sam Wilson, but you feel the grief of the MCU. Honestly, in this episode, I feel like it's not just one person like Wanda in WandaVision. You feel everybody's grief because of, Steve Rogers and what he meant to us as Captain America, or the MCU as Captain America. So I mean, it definitely was much more emotional than I was expecting. And I think a lot of us kind of expected some kind of funeral or some kind of, because they had showed, Sam Wilson in the suit in a trailer. So,
and the series opens with him ironing the suit.
Right. Yeah. Yep. So we were kind of bracing for it, but I mean, again, the emotional impact that this episode has, I wouldn't say it came out of nowhere, but it was much more potent than I expected it to be, for sure.
Just while we're here, and I think you're bringing up the subject, so I think it's the appropriate time to ask this. We don't see Captain America's funeral, which means in theory that old man Rogers is still out there.
Right. Like they don't explicitly say he's dead. They don't explicitly really even say anything about him besides they're just like giving a speech about him.
But they keep bringing it up. They brought it up when Torres asked Falcon, "Hey, is he on the moon?"
And Sam kind of dances around it.
And Sam like BS's it. He doesn't even like give a clear answer.
He's on the moon.
You think he's on the moon, Jarret?
Hold on. Mephisto's advocate, okay? Let me
go.
tell you about one of my favorite comic arcs of all time. Buckle in, boys and girls.
Oh boy.
Original Sin.
Dude, I have that in my show notes. You're taking away my freaking you're stealing my thunder right now, bro. Come on now. All right, no, you got it. You go, Jarret.
Okay, for those of you who haven't been blessed by Original Sin, which is a wild and weird and bizarre comic event, but in Original Sin, somebody kills the Watcher, a Watu who lives on the moon and watches over all things. And there's this race to figure out who killed the Watcher. Spoilers for one of the amazing, greatest comic arcs of all time, but it ends up being somebody called the Man on the Wall. Man on the Wall is this character, I'm not going to try to spoil it too much, who prevents these multiverse level events from happening. He deals with all things that mystical, alien invaders, time, everything, right? And it's revealed to be a character who is grown old and is looking for somebody to replace him. The somebody who's going to replace him eventually is Winter Soldier. Now, does that sound anything at all like what we're talking about here? We have an old hero.
First of all, screw you. I prepped for 30 minutes before this episode on really great show notes that I'm like, hey, you know what? We're going to have a really killer episode, but Jarrett's obvious.
I'm a wild card,
your intelligence is so high that I can't even prep for 30 to 45 minutes ahead of time to outsmart you here. This is just another, Isaac, you put this up in all our platforms, another breadcrumb that I feel like Marvel is BSing us on. I feel like they're trying to tell us, hey, it's not there. Don't worry about it. This is another thread that Marvel is pulling from this multiverse saga, Jarret. You're nailing it, right? Like, we have Mephisto references in WandaVision. We know that Kang is coming down the line with Ant-Man. We know that this Original Sin arc is absolutely within the realm of reason. Oh, and by the way, what happens in Original Sin, Jarret? Thor loses his nobility with Mjolnir, which is totally coming down the line.
And somebody else picks up the hammer. Yeah.
right? I totally am picking that
It's
up.
there, buddy. It's there. Yeah.
It's interesting because this is clearly Feige knows that we're going to catch this stuff, right? He knows that.
He has to. Why else would you mention the moon?
Right? Because like the show writer for WandaVision was like, I've never heard of Mephisto.
That's a bunch of BS. There's no way.
I hope that she sits on 2 different tacks when she sits down tonight. I hope that she falls face first into a puddle of mud for saying that. I hope that she gets hooked literally on phonics for a year. That's what I hope for this woman, because that's baloney that she didn't know who Mephisto was.
Yeah, that was garbage.
If those twins were in the show, I digress. I just needed, that's just my rant from 2 weeks ago. So the point I'm making here, Jarret, is that's another thread we're seeing. And Sam doesn't deny it, Zayne. He doesn't deny it. We don't know where Captain America is. Where is he, Zayne?
He's on the moon.
Obviously. I mean,
No, I find it fascinating that once again they're leaving it ambiguous. I think it's smart because, Chris Evans could always come in down the line. And obviously this week, we'll put this in the show notes. I'll put a link in the show notes to the article. Kevin Feige explicitly said, I don't think that he's coming back. I'm paraphrasing. That's not the exact quote. But it's pretty clear that Chris Evans, for the foreseeable future, is not coming back. Now, at the next Avengers Endgame level movie, that could change because they've been hinting at some multiverse stuff. Jarret, this drove me nuts, man. I mean, I saw Original Sin immediately when I saw this, which is such a wonky arc. It's a newer arc, but it's so weird. It's so and just the stuff they do with Nick Fury, who also is in space right now. There's just a ton of crap that really aligns with Original Sin right now, Jarret. I'm totally picking up what you're putting down there. My lesson I learned from WandaVision is no, it's not that, Max. Stop it. It's not that. Mephisto is not in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Okay? Mark and Max need to stop.
That you
no,
know
don't
of.
do that to me.
Maybe Mephisto's on the moon. You don't know.
No, stop.
I really hope we get these the buddy cop team ups that they have in Original Sin, where it's like, I think it's Moon Knight and Gamora. And
No,
then
dude,
it's like
Doctor
the
Strange
Punisher
and
Doctor
frickin'
Strange.
Punisher, dude.
Oh, it's
Like,
so
Zayne,
good.
is that not your favorite arc in that? It has to be, right?
Oh, right. Like, to the 2 people, you're like, why would these 2 people ever interact? And they're like, hey, guess what? These 2 people have an arc. And you're like, how did we not get more of this? Who
so
thought
Can
this?
you imagine if they brought in what's the actor's name from the Netflix series? Why is it spacing?
Oh, Bernthal. John Bernthal.
Yeah, John Bernthal. Him
Oh
as
gosh,
Punisher
and
next to
Benedict Cumberbatch. Oh my
so
gosh. That would be
Dude,
amazing.
honestly, that'd be a field day for acting for those 2. To be honest, they both would love
be
it.
amazing.
I just want Moon Knight in this. He's part of Original Sin.
Please.
It's too convenient, to quote Zayne. It's just too doggone convenient right now. There's just too many things that are like, you got to be kidding me. Is this the Avengers thing that they're doing? And we've seen Uatu, of course.
Yeah, I think they try to hint at this being some sort of finality in the way that they put Sam across from Rhodey, right? Like that, when he was talking about Steve and it kept cutting to Rhodey, you felt every single blow that Rhodey felt thinking of
Yeah.
Tony, right? Like,
yeah,
and I
absolutely.
think that was done on purpose to really make us feel like, oh, he's gone like Tony gone.
It's
But
interesting you say that, Jarret,
it's an
because
okey-doke.
I interpreted this as Rhodey looking at this through the eyes of Falcon, you're supposed to be the guy. Why are you giving this up? You're supposed to be the guy. You were specifically given this by Steve. And you're turning it down.
It is interesting that he cut out that last line. He cut out the response from Steve that, no, it's yours. And like, that shows you where his mental status is at. He can't process that truly this was given to him. It's still Steve's in his mind. That
Okay,
last line cuts
we
off.
got to answer this. So, Jarret, you're saying he's on the moon. Zayne, do you think that Steve Rogers is on the moon, or is he dead? Or is he something else?
Well, I mean, just for the bit, I'm going to say he's on the moon, but I don't think he's dead. I think he's somewhere else. They're being coy with it. They're either going to be just like, we're just, yanking your chain. But I don't think he's dead. He's going to be somewhere, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't think he's dead either.
I feel like for the convenience of what's coming down the line, they need to keep his character around. Jarret's hoping it's the moon, like our Dogecoin investments. Yeah, Jarret, man, Original Sin would be a fun arc to do, and would be a way that you could get everybody that they're trying to set up, like in these future movies, in the game, right? That would be interesting. That to me doesn't feel like an adequate crossover versus kind of what they've done with Young Avengers and Kree versus Skrull. But I'm with you, man. It's interesting. Let's go to the action sequence. Let's talk about this opening action sequence. Sam is getting hired out by the Air Force. He has this unbelievable action sequence. I forget which one of you referenced it in your non-spoiler review, but they made it very clear. So originally this show was supposed to be, according to old news articles, this was supposed to release in August of 2020. This was supposed to kick off the Marvel Cinematic Universe on Disney+. COVID hits, everybody goes bananas. The thought process originally was this opening sequence would be the proof to people that, hey, the Marvel Cinematic Universe can be on a TV show and maintain that high level of special effects, right?
Yeah.
And so we see Falcon not only save this soldier before entering Libya. These are the notes I wrote down. He's fighting LAF. Oh, I'm sorry. He's fighting LAF led by Batroc. Complete parallel to Winter Soldier on the boat. He has basically a Mission Impossible, especially the newer one where they flew out of the plane with Henry Cavill. Pretty much like beat for beat, that scene is that. It's like a mix between a Mission Impossible and Winter Soldier when Cap just says, no parachute, I'm just gonna jump out of the plane because I'm a psychopath. The Red Wing tech helps Sam fight, helps him break into the ship.
That was cool.
It's Stark tech, we learned later, so like there's still some Stark connection. And by the way, it talks to him like Jarvis in Friday, which is kind of an upgrade from where it was. We never saw that in Civil War, or in Infinity War was kind of the last time we saw Red Wing really, really shown, when it was throwing at all those. What were those things that were attacking them in Infinity War? What were those called? That's a deep cut. No, that would have been Avengers. Whatever. Somebody look it up on their cell phone.
The Putty Patrollers.
And I thought that there's just this scene was wild to me, not only for the action but the Easter eggs. He comes on top of the plane, peeps inside the plane. It's like it's a reference to Iron Man. Like Marvel just is so meta in how they approach things, Jarret.
I loved it. There were so many breadcrumbs and sugar cookies in this for us, and I was not expecting this. I thought this would be like significantly more clean cut, and I love that they give call outs to things that we know from the comic books, things that we love. Like,
I think we seriously need to open a Infinity Bros bakery, because we've been talking about breadcrumbs and sugar cookies and cake for the past like 3 or 4 weeks now.
Hey, I know someone who can make our stuff.
Yeah, real talk. Side note, dude, your wife's cake wails.
Thank you.
I hate
agree.
that everybody but me has tried it.
That triple deck, Zayne, could you not believe it was triple decker?
Triple. That's 3.
Yep. It's good stuff.
It transcends time, space, reality, and heaven and hell.
Max, just real quick, can you go step on a Lego for me? Because you... Holly, if you're listening to this, I will buy 1,000 cakes.
They're unbelievable. Zayne, you got one, right? You got one this week?
It's fantastic.
Dude, they're unbelievable. If
She
you
has
live in
been
Minnesota...
looking into shipping, Jarret, so
There you go.
stay tuned.
Is she really?
She's been looking into it.
I'll just fly you guys here.
Oh, heck yeah, buddy.
Okay,
Dude,
I mean,
that
I'll
cake
take
I'm
is
in.
so stupid. Zayne, what did you think of this opening sequence? How did you like the Easter eggs to it?
Oh, it was really cool. Like you said, kind of the nod of they wanted to show that, hey, we can carry the MCU vibe into a TV show. And I thought it was perfect. It was well done. It's what you wanted to see. It's just like, it's not all, doom and gloom necessarily. Like, we're going to, like I said, hit the ground running. We're going to give you an action sequence here. Because, like, we just want to, set the tone right away. And yeah, it was very cool. Like, it's like, yeah, those Winter Soldier vibes. We got to see GSP again as Batroc. Just the just the way everything went out, Red Wing, it felt cool. Like you're just sitting there watching it, can't help but smile because you're like, all right, this is cool. Like this is how you're gonna start out. Like that, gets you more hype because you're like, all right, this is how we're beginning. Like it's only gonna go, up from here. Hopefully.
I like that Sam kills everybody but Batroc.
Right. He just jumts out at the end.
No. We need him in episode 3.
Right, exactly. Like, now we'll save him. He's such a good villain.
Dude, GSP, honestly, it crushes that role.
Oh, for sure. Like, it's just...
He crushes it. Yeah.
Would have never have thought that, but it's just like, oh, yeah, I'm an MCU villain.
He's so canon. He's in a movie in in a Marvel Cinematic Universe Disney Plus series.
I'm actually really disappointed that they didn't give him a theme song. I was really expecting something like that after WandaVision, all the villains to get theme songs.
I was going to say, were you expecting more of that with the Snyder cut? I was going to say.
Just wait till like episode 6. We're going to find he was pulling the strings. We're going to get Batroc all along. And,
Thanos has been answering to Batroc. That's what we're going to find out. That's what we're going to find out.
You're going to get a cool montage of him pulling the strings behind everything. It was all Batroc.
It was GSP all along.
Wait, turn and look at the camera, wink.
We're going to get like a 30-minute documentary from the Frozen composers about how they met up with GSP to do his theme song and incorporate beats of him physically kicking the crap out of people into their music.
It's entirely in French. Yeah.
Isaac, I mean, did you love this scene? How did you feel about this opening action scene?
I loved it, and it's honestly the perfect way to start out this show. Like, I feel like this show is going to be a lot of action, a lot of, guys just beating up other people, and that's what we got, and it was awesome. I loved seeing Falcon in action again, and I really I don't know, I kind of get this vibe of that Sam is angry kind of at the world, and he's just like taking it out on these guys. And I love that starting out like this, because I feel like we're going to get some kind of resolution along with Bucky, who is going through his own thing. But man, I loved everything about that opening scene. Like, and I mentioned in my non-spoiler review, the visual effects are amazing. They're unbelievable. Really good. They're great. Like MCU level, great visual effects. It is everything I wanted for an opening.
And he's not in a suit. Like, it's his body and face, right? Like,
yeah, right.
That's got to be tough. And I think I really, really like that too, Isaac. I think that's a great point. Like, just the visual effects that you've said is it matters. If they had taken the CW approach on these characters, people would feel like they're shortchanging them. And these characters have earned the right to have a moment in the sun. As we clearly saw in WandaVision, who I think a lot of people would say now, Wanda Maximoff is a top 5 MCU character. There's a lot of people I'm hearing saying that that's one of their favorite characters. Jarret, since you wanted to be the stealer, the thief of my thunder, Joaquin Torres is in this. That is the next Falcon in line in the comics. Do you think that's where we're headed?
I think it's cool that they set him up. Like, why else would you introduce it? And again, we've been hurt before, WandaVision. I'm looking at you. But why else would you put him in here and give him such a prolific role? Like, he's there.
He had a way bigger role than I thought he'd have, Jarret.
Crazy. And, like, they introduced him like, oh, cool, Easter egg. He's going to be in the background. And they're like, nope, he's front and center. Like, he's around.
He was kind of the number 3 in this episode, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. And like, the fact that you're kind of following the story of the flag breakers through his eyes means that, like, he's a bigger piece of the puzzle than we even realized coming down the line. Like, hats off to them. Great introduction.
I did not see this coming at all. This was a total blindside to me, Jarret. This was one of the, like, blessings of this episode. I had no clue that that's who this guy was when I saw these trailers. Zayne, are you ready for somebody else to take the mantle, air quotes, of Falcon? Obviously, Sam's got to take that cap spot first, but, like, are you cool with that line in the comics? Like, do you like that line?
All right. Well, for starters, I got to go after Jarret here. Hey, Jarret, learn your comic books. They're the flag smashers, not flag breakers, okay? Get your terms right.
Actually, I was just Googling this while you were talking about it because it sounded wrong and I had to double check. So I went to comicbookresources.com, and they told me to tell you this.
Dude, you're so edgy this week, Jarret.
So edgy.
I am. I'm stirring the pot.
He's gonna take the
say,
edgelord mantle from Mark.
Before we get too wild, I would have never called Torres. You know who I thought they were gonna introduce in this because they've been lining him up? I thought it was gonna be Patriot.
Yep.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, totally, dude. Totally.
I
Absolutely.
would have put money on that.
Especially with the Young Avengers stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that just made total sense. And maybe he's still coming. That's the thing. Like,
Oh my gosh.
I still think that could be a
Don't do
very
that
real
to me.
possibility, Jarret. I don't think that's gone yet. I'm serious. I really don't. Zayne, are you a fan of that? Because that's a newer line with Torres taking that mantle. Have you been following along in that lately? Or are you like, not really? That's not my cup of tea.
Well, I haven't been following it really in the comics or whatever, but I'm all for it. Like, why not? Like, especially you're coming into the Phase 4, like you're coming into new stuff. Like, why not bring in some fresh faces, bring in some younger people? Like, if you want this thing to be a living universe that continues on, like, you are gonna have to find ways of bringing fresh people in. And I might not be super versed on it, but if you're using the comic books as inspiration and you're pulling stuff from the comic books, I will never have a reason to really be against that. Like, if you're being like, hey, like, this guy, became the next Falcon in the comics, let's go with him. Hey, Sam became the next Captain America, let's explore that. Like, if you're basing it in something that happened, in the comics, like, yeah, let's see it. Let's see what you can do. Tell me a story,
Well, and I think too, like, the comic book movies have shown that you can deviate from the comics as long as you execute it well. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
Spider-Man, the original Tobey Maguire, they had a lot of deviations from the original Spider-Man comics, but everybody loved those movies. I mean, for exceptions for Spider-Man 3, obviously a lot of people didn't like that, but I mean, you can deviate as long as you put together a good story and you execute it well. So even if they are following the comic book storylines, that's even better to me. Like, that's really cool. But like, as long as it's executed well, that's all that really matters.
When they okie doked us with Hawkeye having a family, right? When they set that up, there was a little part of me that was like, oh, this is cool, but like, man, that scrubs so much off the table. Like, how are we gonna see him as Ronin? How are we gonna get the Matt Fraction Hawkeye? Like, I couldn't see the vision at that point, and so I was like, oh, okay, well, I like what they're doing, but it kind of sucks that they're deviating.
It paid off, though, Jarret. That
Absolutely.
decision paid off, because at the time, I'm with you. At the time, that felt like, okay, we're getting to know him deeper, but that really limits his Fraction Hawkeye run, right? I think it paid off, and I don't think it's an accident, even though we thought Quicksilver was going to be in WandaVision. We're still kicking ourselves for that. I seriously, and it feels like I'm saying that, I feel like I'm in a time loop, but I'm going to say it anyway. I agree, Jarret. It just doesn't make sense that he'd have this much airtime in episode 1. As an audience member, you are upset that he gets beaten up. We're creating that affection for this character.
This cannot be a Ralph Boner.
I agree. This does not feel like
Ralph Boner.
Dude, Ralph Boner sucks. Screw Ralph Boner. F you, MCU. That's ridiculous. Unbelievable. It's egregious. Until they fix it, it will be egregious. Zayne, the Flag Smashers, thank you for saying it right. I'm glad someone's here that can fix. Someone's read a comic book here.
Some of us
really
did
fast,
our
at
research.
least.
Some of us care about the quality of our podcast.
I know, and Zayne, I'm glad you're here for that.
Zayne 5 minutes ago.
He's the official fact checker of the Infinity
Yeah,
Bros.
just hard
can
keyboard
Google things
sound
so
effect
fast.
should be inserted here. So Flag Smasher is actually a single character in the comic. Zayne, since you have such investment in this character, clearly, how did you feel about this introduction? Obviously, the way they're introducing the Flag Smashers in this universe is they like the world better during the blip, which I thought was a very unique way of introducing this group personally. Obviously, humanity was united during this time. It felt like a unified vision, but then everybody comes back, so then governments are back automatically, right? It's like people just continue to repeat their same mistakes, and they've got some enhanced people, much like the Flag Smasher from the comics. How did you feel about this pivot away from one person to multiple people, a group which maybe down the line that'll be Aaron Kellerman's character. How did you feel about that?
I feel like it kind of like what Isaac was saying of how, like, if you tell a good story, you can deviate from source material. And I think this is one of those things that it fits the story, it fits the universe. So yeah, Flag Smasher was just, a villain of Captain America, was just a single person. But now they're introducing it kind of as an organization. I feel like we're still going to get that single person later on. But I don't think they're going to take just the name Flag Smasher, but introducing it as this organization because it still works, because you can still keep those ideals that the Flag Smasher villain had. Like, you can still, introduce that, what they're fighting for, their whole deal. It's the same thing, whether it's one person or they're making it into a group. And so it fits the story, it fits, what's going on. So, like, I like it. Like, yeah, it deviates from the source, but it fits the story, and it doesn't go against the grain too hard. So, like, it'll work, I think.
Jarret, you've read about 2 comics in your whole lifetime. What do you think of this character shift?
I think this is really cool, and I think, like, shifting it from a single person to an organization feels more like current events, right? Like, it's about the power of ideologies to move people as groups. And I think the sort of cyber and technical aspect that they took to it too feels very 2020, 2021, right? Like, it feels like a modern approach to these stories. And I like that they're doing a lot. They did the same thing with Red Wing, right? Where, like, Red Wing isn't a bird, he's a drone. And I think modernizing it and taking a fresh approach and perspective is important to keeping these characters alive and well in the cinematic universe that you're building. Yeah, I think absolutely well done.
Isaac, any extra comments?
Nah, I mean, you guys said it. I mean, again, if they are deviating from the source, I am fine with that as long as they tell a good story. And so far, I have no reason to believe that they will not be telling a good story, because this first episode was a great introduction to the show. So I've got nothing against what they're doing at this point.
There have been little bits.
Mm-hmm.
Little bits. Thank you. There have been little bits that this will potentially reveal Inhumans in this universe. Are you currently buying that, or because we got burned so hard in WandaVision, you're just like arm's length?
It's hard not to believe it, but at the same time, I feel like we haven't given enough evidence to really give that credence. I think they will introduce Inhumans down the line, but it's hard to believe that this specific event, this inciting event with this first super-powered villain is like, oh, awesome, Inhumans are in the universe. I think we've been burnt so bad that we're going to need a lot more hard proof.
It's just so tough. But Kevin Feige totally blew off. Because some people are like, okay, the spoilers for WandaVision. Okay, there's the long pause. Some people are like, with the reveal in the final episode that the Darkhold looks different, that doesn't necessarily change what happens in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I'm like, no, that absolutely changes what happens in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with the trajectory of everything. And you're totally blowing off that source material. And you don't want... I guess it's not source material. You're blowing off that TV show, which is fine, by the way. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with them blowing off the Netflix and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. if that's what they want to do. But Inhumans was on the arc down the line as a movie in Phase 3. Like, do we think that's a realistic possibility here, Zayne?
Yeah, I don't think you can fully count it out. It's just, I think people are going to be kind of learning their lesson from WandaVision of getting overhyped with speculation.
I mean, I learned when WandaVision was going on, like the last 3 episodes, I was done speculating. Like, I still was involved in the conversation and everything, but in my mind, I was like, I don't want to put something out there, because the first 6 episodes, everything up to that point, because Agatha got revealed, I think, in episode 7, if I remember correctly. Up to that point, every single thing that we thought was wrong, every single thing. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I gotta stop. So I tried to just like enjoy the ride for the rest of the season. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm like, I don't want to speculate any more than I am setting myself up for disappointment. So I'm just going to go along for the ride, unless like something... I feel like WandaVision 2 was different because they were setting us up to think that way. I don't think they're really going to pull that kind of stuff in Falcon and Winter Soldier. I think this is going to be a lot more linear than WandaVision was. But at the same time, I don't want to set myself up for disappointment like I did in WandaVision. So
it's hard for me to imagine that they wouldn't at least bring in some aspect of the Inhumans with Miss Marvel coming. Like, it seems like a misuse of her character. But I say that knowing full well
But
that,
dude,
like,
with how Quicksilver did, dude, that didactic reasoning's out the window now.
yeah, and like, you look at it exactly like you said, like the original Quicksilver and Wanda, an integral part of their characters is them being mutants, right? And that was scrubbed off the table for the longest time. Now that may come back, but it feels wrong for Miss Marvel for her not to be Inhuman. It's an integral part to the beginning of her character story.
Well, not only did they scrub it away, Jarret, they are trying to tell us that we're overthinking it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's not overthinking it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not. It's just not overthinking it. The Inhumans argument is overthinking it. You could sell me on that's overthinking it. But with WandaVision, and the reason that show really, to me, at the end of it, was just such a disappointment is you left a lot of stuff out there that could have been done. And I'm really fearful. I am cautiously optimistic about this show right now because of it. Like, WandaVision really has kind of tampered my expectations of this show in a shocking way. I'm shocked at how reserved I am. I'm so scared of getting hurt again. I really am. I'm just so playing close
Max,
to the vest.
Eventually you just have to put yourself out there, and you just got to get yourself ready to get hurt again. I just
need an episode with Mark for him to get the creative juices flowing again.
Oh yeah, that'll get it going.
Like that text message today from Mark where he's like, Vision didn't buy it. Vision didn't have any money. Vision didn't buy that house. I was like, that got the creative juices flowing. He's like, someone's setting everybody up. It's Mephisto.
It's Mephisto.
I believe I said it was Mephisto, and Mark thumbs upped it because it was a text message.
There you go.
But it was clear both of us were like, blah, blah, blah,
do I need to pump you up?
You already did with
pump you
Original
up, okay.
Sin, but it's
Look,
but again,
hold on.
this universe,
the Novas are gone. The Novas are gone. We don't know what happened. We don't know what happened to the World Mine of Xandar, right?
We're not having a crossover.
We're getting
of
Sam
Doctor Strange
Alexander
and Punisher,
Nova.
Max. It's not happening. There's no Punisher, Doctor Strange.
The man
crossover.
on the wall. Going to the moon, boys.
Zayne is
it's just so tough.
Gosh.
It's super tough. And
Jarrett's the new Mark. I like this.
Jarret is like an educated Mark.
Well, no, because we can add to this because guys, Stan Lee had appearances in all these movies. There's the headcanon that Stan Lee was a watcher. Stan Lee has now passed
showed
away.
up with the Watchers. Yeah.
Stanley has now passed away, so he's not going to be anything anymore.
No!
So Stanley's dead. The Watcher's dead.
Gosh, it makes too much sense. It makes too much sense, Zayne.
It works so
There's
well.
too many parallels. What's going on? No,
I'm losing my mind.
My mind is melting.
We're getting the
All right, I'm back on it.
Fantastic Four.
Mephisto's the villain.
Oh.
Zayne, you sold me.
There it is. You heard it here, folks. Mephisto is the main villain in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
We get an old 90s song playing slow motion, black and white, Zack Snyder style.
Please.
I'm putting the board back up. Mark walks in slow motion. Boner right in the middle of the board.
Pulls out his string and
Mephisto.
starts tying it up.
What did Jarret call not flag smashers but flag breakers?
Flag breakers.
Yeah, flag breakers. We'd put flag breakers.
Question mark.
Flag breakers question mark.
Yeah.
It's just too good. It's brilliant. I was pretty shocked by this. Sam gives back the shield to the government. Now, okay, I think when you watch these trailers, you could make an assumption that Sam gave it to somebody. I'll be real with you. I maybe I'm just naive, but I just did not see him giving it up that easily in the manner of which he gave it up. Jarret, you talked about the symbolism on the front end in your review. You want to talk a little more about this and how you interpreted this scene?
He's lamenting the character that Steve was and just what he meant to everybody, but at the same time, he's not understanding that he not just literally was given that mantle from Steve, but he makes the logical next step, right? Steve wants a world where, the way in which he was treated in the bank doesn't happen. He wants people to hold the same level of respect for somebody like him as they did for Steve. He wants to pass on that mantle to somebody that he believes embodies all those ideals and values that everybody else puts on him. And so for him to give that up is really telling of like how he views himself. And I think there's so much to say in that. And the fact that immediately following that, right, the government props up somebody that they want, not somebody that is chosen by the people, not somebody that's been given that mantle and that right and earned it, but just a dude that they found who they're like, yeah, he works, right? And I think there's so much to say to that beyond the context of a TV show. And we'll probably get into that more down the line with the following episodes. But yeah, I think it was important that we saw this the way that we did.
I just to skip to the end, that was gut-wrenching, Jarret, to watch that. And I couldn't believe that it was gut-wrenching to me at the moment. Like, after I watched it, I was like, wow, I was really more hurt by them unveiling a new Captain America. I knew full well that John Wyatt was going to take that. Like, I knew that is his role in the show. Yet for me, I was like, oh, that's painful. Given everything that's happened with Winter Soldier, with Infinity War, with Civil War, with Endgame, and what Sam did, for them to not even consider, and obviously Sam passed it up, but for them to not along the lines go like, hey, it should be you, Sam. I'm fascinated to see where they go. I'm pretty confident I know where they're going to go with it from an ethnicity and racial reconciliation perspective. I want to see it more explored, hopefully, under the surface and how they did the bank scene. I felt like that was very masterfully done. I felt like that scene was great. I felt like they didn't beat over our heads. Hey, he's black, so we're not giving him a loan. I felt like that would have been low-hanging fruit. And that was, his ethnicity and race was never brought in. It was definitely implied, but that's how I think these conversations should be had personally. Isaac, you're itching to talk. Go ahead.
Did anybody else want to just punch John Walker in the face as soon as we saw his face? Like, as soon as
that little wink he does at the end. As soon as it
came around, I was just like, oh my gosh, I hate this guy already. I do not like him. I cannot
said
wait.
That he looks like a really bad Funko Pop, and I couldn't unsee it.
Kind of, yeah.
It's like that.
Dude, he looks like the old man from Up, and you can't sell me otherwise. Like, it is. I made a TikTok today with a spoiler, and all of you guys are like, hey, we should wait a little long before you post it. But like, I couldn't unsee it. It was so crazy. His face is just stuffed like a sandwich in that helmet. It's just.
Oh man, I cannot
go check
wait
out our
to
TikTok.
See,
Infinity
I cannot
Bros if
wait to see Sam and Bucky beat the crap out of him. I cannot wait for it. It's gonna be great.
I wonder if he's gonna die down the line, Isaac. I wonder if he's gonna go into the Flag Smashers thinking he's gonna kick the crap out of them, and then he's just gonna die like episode 3. And just like, and he doesn't even come back. He just dies. And like,
ooh, that'd be early, yeah. But I mean, Baron Zemo's hopefully going to be the big bad. So I could see that happening.
How do you see his character playing out? Like, obviously, we only have one episode. We have that goofy wink, as Zayne alluded to earlier, that he got. But like, do you think this is going to be an arrogant character, or do you think this is just going to be a government puppet, Jarret?
Oh yeah, he's going to be an arrogant character for sure.
Okay,
sorry, Jarret, go.
You're saying arrogant, Isaac. Okay.
I'm like both, right? Like, you're the guy that the government chose to be Captain America. Like, he's got to be thinking he's just hot stuff, right? And the best part about this is, I don't know who the actor is. I should have looked that up beforehand. But like, props to this dude for making us this angry. Like well done. I have never watched.
Like 30
we've talked about this on the
film.
episode.
I mixed up their names earlier. I said John Wyatt. It's Wyatt Russell is the actor. John Walker is the character. Yeah. So sorry. So we're having fun.
Props to him, because like, yeah. I've never seen Game of Thrones, right? But like, even I hate Joffrey. I've never watched a single episode. I hate Joffrey.
Wait, right? That's him? Him?
No. Listen.
Oh, like, okay. I was like, wait a minute. Props to that
actor for like, and I've heard he's like a really good dude in real life. But like, actors who can do that, who can make you hate them
so
much just in the way that they're acting, is like absolutely incredible.
I disagree, Jarret. I don't think it was him. I think it was the setup. I think we watched Sam throughout this whole episode. I mean, just watching Sam's reaction to this news, you can feel him just like intrinsically know I let everyone down. That's supposed to be me, and I'm such a coward that I won't take it. I think Sam is gonna have. Originally, coming into the show, I thought Sam would have to deal with the government taking it from him. That's what I assumed the route was going to be. And I'm grateful that the MCU didn't choose that. I think they could have easily said, oh, black man bad. We take it from black man. And I think to make it more depth-filled and to show scenes like the bank scene when the guy is like clearly saying, hey, yeah, you haven't been paid in 5 years. I was gone in the damn blip for 5 years. Like, how could I have made money?
Saving the world and I
just
and
a
I
great
disappeared.
like way of approaching that I felt was like it's the perfect blend of fiction and reality, because that totally would happen in real life to a lot of people, by the way, of a certain socioeconomical class. I'm not just speaking to race there. I thought that was brilliant. I think Anthony Mackie is bringing his A game in this series.
Oh, yeah.
In a way that I've never
so
seen him
heck
do in this. But I mean, Sebastian Stan is lightening up as a character. Anthony Mackie is getting harder as a character. We're watching these characters go opposite directions. I think Sebastian Stan is getting funnier, and I think Anthony Mackie is getting harder as characters. Go ahead, Jerry. You're shaking your head.
Sebastian Stan was not funny in this one. Like,
oh my gosh, I disagree.
His scene, okay, the whole arc in this first episode with Sebastian Stan, obviously the bit with him and the secretary or whatever, or not the senator or whatever, that was pretty funny. And him chatting with his psychologist, right?
Yeah.
The counselor. That was great. That was hilarious. Every single bit that followed that with him and
it got dark.
Yori,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yep,
Him
Yori.
and Yori was, dude, I was like almost in tears. I'm not joking. Like when he was.
I think the argument I'm making is like I'm speaking to like, and we'll talk about Bucky in a bit here, but just to use brief examples before we go into detail later. I thought the amends part was great. I thought his dialogue with the therapist was great. I thought he really let loose as a character as Bucky. Like, we're seeing Bucky let down his guard, right? And I think I really like, because let's be real, Falcon has always been a guy that says jokes. He has been resorted to. I think a criticism you could make of this character is in Winter Soldier, he's the wisecracking dude who says, well, Falcon, Captain America needs me to get back in. No better reason. Like, that's not really a logical reason, but we're just making a joke. Hey, on your left. Like, I think that was his role in those movies. And I like that they're fleshing him out. And then on the flip side, Bucky Barnes was just like, he's a killer. He's from Hydra, which is part of a Nazi. He's a deep Nazi Russian. Blah, 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 blah. He's so evil. Oh my gosh, he's got long hair. It's like, but like,
he wears
we're
a mask.
seeing him let loose. I really think they're going a little different in direction with both of these characters. I think we're going to see Falcon be more serious, and I'm excited for that. But I also think Bucky Barnes gets to let loose, and really, I think we're going to see him be raw and emotional, Jarret. I really, really am excited for that. I think the therapist stuff is a brilliant route to go.
That was great.
Personally with this. But getting to Wyatt Russell's character of John Walker, if we could use more expletives, we would. F that guy. He sucks. Zayne, go ahead. You haven't said much on this subject. Anything to add on John Walker before we move on?
Yeah, no, like I just think like it was kind of a weird just how they transitioned into it. I feel like they're gonna still kind of give that arrogant vibe he has, because like that's was his character in the comics. And part of me feels like too of it just seems like you're getting this vibe of this separation between those two of, okay, well, we just need, the government's taking it. We just need Captain America. The government's taking it because of the idea, the image of Captain America. Whereas you got Sam, who's like, well, this is a person like this. And that's why like Sam's like, I don't want to take the shield because it's yours. Like, and I feel like you're going to have a meeting point between the two of something being earned compared to something that was just given to someone. Whereas I think you're going to get Sam getting that point of feeling like the reason why Cap was giving me the shield is because to him, like, I earned it. And like, I'm the next person to carry on kind of like what his vision is of what the ideals he truly represented, because they were Steve's. They weren't USA's ideals. They weren't the government's ideals. They were what Steve felt. And that's why Steve gave him the shield. And I think you're going to get that moment eventually where, you know, that internal struggle of like, it went to me because I'm taking that next step, whereas you're just being given this because of an image. You don't have weight in the game, you know?
Is there any chance, Zayne, that this could be an okie doke and Bucky gets the mantle?
I mean, there's a chance of it. I don't think they're going to do it. Just because I think there's so much more they can do with Bucky being his own character.
Yeah, this episode really, from an arc perspective, to me, really sells that Sam's going to be Captain America.
Yeah, I think that's definitely coming down the line. I think an MCU Bucky just has so much crap in his past that I just don't think that he's a good fit for Captain America.
And we said that in our Endgame,
right.
By the way. In our Endgame review, you can go check that out. We said that day one. Sam was the logical choice. I kind of like that they're leading into it, but I'm scared to death that they're going to okie doke me. I really am. I'm scared. I'm dead serious. WandaVision really messed me up, man. That show messed me up in my expectations of where we're going.
I just picture you at like 3 a.m, just shaking in the dark and cold with like a scotch in your hand, and you just like pelt it at the wall, and you're like, "Take that, Feige!" and just shaking and paranoid.
Max is just he's gonna suddenly just wake up in the middle of the night, just like, Sarah, Mephisto's the next Captain America.
My mind is older than Old Man Cap. That's where I'm at right now with this.
He's
right?
just waiting for Sam Wilson to pull off a rubber mask, and it's Mephisto.
Mephisto!
It's Mephisto!
I knew it. Redemption.
Did we like the Rhodey cameo? I've just to before you talk about the Rhodey cameo, I really liked that he's the one asking, "Why didn't you take the mantle?" I really like that I think he's gonna have more of a presence. He says, "I'll see you when I see ya." Do we think we'll get him back before Armor Wars? What do you think, Jarret? Go ahead.
Absolutely, and I think like it's important to draw the line that like Rhodey, in the same way that Tony was there from the beginning. So out of anybody, he's been walking this line with, obviously from Tony's perspective more than anybody else's, but he understands the character of who Steve was even behind the shield, right? He understands, and not to get too like deep and meta on it, but like the flag isn't the flag because of the flag, right? The flag is the flag because of all the Americans that died and bled for it, all the people who make it great every day. Right. And so Rhodey has that unique perspective of what Tony looks like under the armor, truthfully, as a character. He knows what Steve looks like behind the shield. And so when he calls on him and says, like, "Man, why wasn't it you?" He gets every single bit of what that means. Not just to take up the shield, but to be the guiding force forward, to be the team leader, the one who calls the shots, to be the moral center of the group. And like having Rhodey do that is so incredibly important because, like Tony, he was there from the beginning.
Yeah, I thought that was a really great cameo to have. Doggone it, man! I didn't think when I heard Armor Wars, I was like, whatever.
Same.
Now I'm getting pumped about it. Now. I'm like, doggone it, Feige, you jerk! Got me pumped for a C-list MCU character.
Tonight, you're gonna be sitting in your corner. You're gonna throw your scotch across the room. Feige!
Did you like the cameo, Zayne?
Yeah, no, it was good. Like, it was just for all the reasons said. Like, he was kind of that character to Tony as to what Sam kind of was to Cap. They have that connection there, and like, hey, it's kind of on us to move this forward now. And like, I don't know if it's gonna be much more than just what we got in that episode. It'd be cool if he's in more and more active, but I think having him there kind of paid some of that respect and just kind of showed that like it's on us now, you know.
I'd add too. It's a very intentional choice from Marvel to do it a man of color. Clearly they want a man of color who is in high authority in this universe asking that question.
No, I mean, I think honestly, Jarret nailed it on this. Like him being there from the beginning and being a guy of color, like I think it was very perfect moment, and who else would be better to do that? I don't think there is a better person in the MCU to play that role. So yeah, I thought it was awesome. And honestly, like the more cameos we see of MCU characters in these Disney Plus shows, the better, I think. Like I want more. I want give me all of them.
That is the point.
Yeah, get them all in there. I'd totally be down.
It's the point of the MCU.
Yeah.
The point is you never know who could come into the frame.
Yeah, right. I love that.
I agree, Isaac. I actually think they should up it. I think WandaVision had a criminally underrated amount of references. That's another piece of feedback I'd give. I'm just on a WandaVision tear today.
Get him, Max.
I'm going, Jarret. Here I am. Before we go into Winter Soldier, Sebastian Stan says this is the most fit he's ever been for an MCU role. He said the demand for the character on this show was so high that he had to get in the best shape of his life.
So does that mean we're going to get to see him take his shirt off?
I don't know. Mark will be wondering that next week when he comes on, I'm sure.
We did already. The first scene of him after his bad dream.
True. Good point.
We get it. You're looking for him to take his shirt off.
Jarret was paying very, very good attention during that scene.
Christian!
I was like, Christian! I said, Christian, look!
Christian, come here!
Look in a mirror!
Christian!
That's how I look. I was like, man, he must have been watching my videos. Like, it worked.
It's like that scene in SpongeBob where he's watching that what's the
anemone.
You know what I'm talking about? I don't even know what it was. He's like, Gary walks in. Meow. That's Jarret and Christian. It's after dark. It's after 9:30, people. It's 9:31. We can get a little spicy here. If we keep this up, I'm going to have to hit the explicit button for the iTunes for the podcast.
Ooh, spicy.
We're on a tear tonight, my guy.
I'm going there, man. I'm
close.
excited. I'm still like my heart is still just like tender from WandaVision 2 weeks ago.
Take a back seat for 2 seconds. This is a question for Isaac, Zayne, and the Infinity Bros universe at large. How do we feel about post WandaVision Max Mosier versus 3 Drink Robbie?
Ooh. Oh, man.
Yeah,
I want to see a face-off, honestly. Like, that sounds amazing.
3 Drink Robbie and I, first of all, have both had 3 drinks. Second of all, would definitely have a good time.
That would be a good time.
And
Absolutely.
hopefully, and I'm not trying to make promises and write checks I can't cash, you'll want to check those guys out because they're probably going to be on the Snyder Cut review.
Oh, boy.
That also drops this coming Monday, March 22nd.
That's going to be a spicy one.
Post WandaVision Max and 3 Drink Robbie are like the kind of people who make kids cry in Rocket League, but like in the funniest way possible.
GG.
GG's, bro.
GG. What a
GG
save.
too easy. What a save. Chat's been to save.
They're just like their evolved Pokemon forms.
Yeah.
Like that's just the next level. That's just what you get.
It's
I
Mega
feel
Max
like that's a
Mosier.
compliment. Even though you're
Yeah.
trying to make fun of me, I still feel like it's a compliment. And I like it. I'm editing this part out so my mom doesn't know I have 3 drinks ever.
How dare you?
It's been a week, people. It's been a week. Winter Soldier. Jarret, we talked about you getting excited about him having no shirt on. But he befriends Yori, who I loved that he was like his best friend is this old man who's like on his last, like closing in on his last legs of life. I thought that is totally who he would be friends with, right? Like that's who Cap was friends with in Age of Ultron. I think that was great. Very nice touch until we find out why he's friends with him because he killed his son. I mean, just like the torture this guy's putting himself through. Jarret, what do you think of this, man?
Ugh.
Dude, okay, so we started watching this. Me and my wife started watching this at her parents' house, and then I had to run home real quick and finish it. And like I was almost in tears. I'm like, I'm a grown man sitting alone in my house crying.
Yeah, dude.
But that was so heavy, and the fact that like he doesn't resolve it in the way that has some sort of clean resolution. Like he still tortures himself.
Mm-hmm.
You assume that like next week we're gonna continue that relationship, and like the amount of pain of something that he had no control over, right? Because the whole time that he was the Winter Soldier, none of that was his fault. and yet he continues to own it and wear it on his sleeve. And it's this idea of like, I don't want to get too heavy here, but like people who have been through abuse and have hurt others, right? That's what you do. You continue to bring it on yourself unless you get help in the form of friendships and relationships that pull you out of that. Like that was in the same way that Wanda was a very raw picture of grief. He was a very raw picture of that sort of torture that you would go through. Sorry,
PTSD is
really
clearly a theme here, Jarret. I mean, no, you're nailing it. I'm fascinated to see how deep they go in the soldier approach, right? Zayne, like, I mean, how deep are they going with people who've been to war? I mean, he literally says, I've been fighting battles on and off. They have me fight, then put me to bed for 90 years straight. What do you think?
Well, yeah, like I think that's what makes his character so interesting, and I think that's why, like, it doesn't make sense if we got okey doked or anything of him being Captain America, just because you have so much with this character of exploring these battles. Like, how do you survive, knowing that was your past? How do you, continue forward? How do you, not justify it, but how do you get, a spot in your life that you're okay? And how do you, process through this, and like,
it's so fascinating, Zayne, too, that in Endgame, we see the ending and the resolution is our main heroes go away with somebody. Thor goes with the Guardians. Iron Man passes away, but he gets this beautiful redemption arc. Captain America gets to spend his time with Peggy, excuse me.
Oh, no. Oh, gosh.
With her niece, who's 80 years younger than her. That's such a terrible arc, too. Screw you, Feige. You probably would have put that in WandaVision if you could have. Or Ant-Man, like he got with his people, and the late Chadwick Boseman goes back to Wakanda, right? And something we're seeing in these MCU shows, Zayne, is Wanda didn't go back to anybody. Bucky doesn't go back to anybody. In fact, he actually goes to the thing he was avoiding all along.
Right.
He probably in his mind would rather be dusted than be where he's at right now in a world without Steve.
No, well, I think you hit the nail on the head because, yeah, everyone else has something they go back for. Like, this was the big battle, just everything. Oh, we finally beat Thanos. We can go, head off into the sunset or go do our next thing. And, yeah, with Bucky, like, that is kind of what drowned everything out. Like, this is what's waiting for him that he goes back to. Like you can't run from your past. You can't run from what happened. And, like, those moments of that quiet and, you're no longer currently fighting a battle, but now it becomes internal. And with Bucky, like, that becomes such a huge thing because his entire life he's been fighting external battles, and now he finally has to fight one internally. And I think that's such a huge thing, and it's going to be very cool to see that play out throughout this show of how do you fight that battle? Like, yeah, you've made it this far, but like you can't stop now. And how, right?
He's sleeping on floors. He was deprogrammed by Shuri.
I think what we're seeing in this show is Bucky finding out who he is. He doesn't know who he is. Like, he's been brainwashed for, almost 100 years. And like, when the psychologist asks him, what do you want to do? He has no clue. He has no clue what he wants to do. He is lost without Steve, like you said, Zayne. And I think this show, and that's another reason why it just wouldn't make sense for him to be Captain America. He doesn't even know who he is. There's no way he can be the moral center of a team. Like, it just wouldn't fit. And I think we're going to see him kind of go on a discovery of who he is in this show. But man, yeah, good points that you guys were making about him. I'm really excited because I think Sebastian Stan is nailing this right now. Like the scenes with Yori, like, yeah, that was powerful. And like you said, Jarret, I mean, he's torturing himself. He went to his apartment, I mean, supposedly to tell Yori about it, but then saw his son's picture, and I don't know if he chickened out or what, like, was going through his head, but that's kind of what seemed like happened. Was he wanted to tell Yori what was going on, but he ended up just not, and he continues to do it. He continues to torture himself and punish himself. He probably wants to punish himself. Like you mentioned, Jarret, like the victims of abuse, like they feel like they deserve that. So he feels like he's getting what he deserves, but he doesn't know like what is in his, like he just doesn't know what he's doing in his life right now. So I'm excited to see what path they have for him. And I think Sam is going to help him find that out in this show. The clips that we've seen in the trailers of them interacting, like they have some great and funny interaction. They have chemistry from the movies, before this. And I'm really excited to see how Sam kind of like helps him find who he is.
It's interesting that they took this relationship off the table, but like his closest kindred spirit, obviously in the comic books it's different, but like in the MCU, the closest parallel besides Steve would be Black Widow, right? Like who else has been programmed as a spy and had everything that makes them connected to other people stripped away? And so like her processing through her grief looked wild and crazy and erratic, and like she was rudderless and lost until she found a way to move on in the form of sacrificing herself. And so like the fact that they're not taking that approach with this and giving him somebody to lean on in the way that Clint wasn't there for, obviously he was dealing with his own trauma, but he wasn't there for Natalia. I mean, not Natalia, Natasha. Like her thing is like she never recovered from that. She never recovered from losing Hulk. She never recovered from not having Clint around to lean on during this difficult time. And like it's nice that they're showing us like this is what happens when you're able to process through that with a friend in the form of Falcon. I think that's cool that they're leaving that.
And I don't know if he will ever find full, resolution to all of the stuff he's done, because like we mentioned before, yeah, he's been literally killing people brainwashed for 90 years. So I don't know how you find full resolution or, peace of mind after that. But I think at the end of the show, he's going to find more of an identity in what he's doing now. So I'm excited to see how that moves forward.
I thought he was hilarious. Just to shift gears, Jarret, I'll hold to that. I thought the stuff with the therapy was fantastic. His chemistry with that gal is great. I wonder if she's not a good guy. I wonder if we're going to find out she's a Skrull or something down the line. Maybe she's Mephisto, Zayne. Mephisto. Not to play Mephisto's advocate. Do we need to like create a Mephisto's advocate button? Like, yes, I feel like we're going to talk about Mephisto in every MCU show moving forward.
Oh my gosh, that'd be amazing.
No, I really liked it. I liked the making amends scene. I thought that, again, I really like that they're pivoting towards a goofy approach with this character. He has never had that in his run. Except for
the
when
old man jokes too, like poured into that quite a bit. I love the old man jokes.
Well, like the only time it's been funny is when Rocket tried to take his arm, and that was just Rocket being a dick. Like that wasn't really Bucky.
That's more
funny,
Rocket
right?
being
like
funny.
Rocket was just like, "How much for the
Bucky?
arm?" And he's like, "You can't have the arm. Leave me alone, you crazy raccoon." Side note here: Sarah and I watched the Legends clips. Have you guys watched these before? So Legends is a small TV. Essentially a 4 to 6 minute arc recap of where each character that's coming up in these shows have been up to this point.
Oh, that's cool.
This was a great tool for Sarah, my wife, who really likes the MCU, but she just doesn't know the stuff like I read and care about this stuff. She doesn't. And so if you have just somebody in your life that you want to watch this with, the fear for them is they're not going to be able to follow.
Yeah.
Pop in Legends. These are great. 4 to 6 minutes each. We watched it before WandaVision. It made WandaVision way better for Sarah. She kind of had to watch it on her own because of our time constraint in our life. But with this, she was able to follow everything pretty much perfectly. And it's 20 minutes, but it made the experience to us longer. It made the episode feel longer because we watched the recap, right? And so I don't know if every episode will be like that. But just total side note, 6 out of 6. Legends is all you got to search for, and Wanda and Vision have that too. You can check those out for them. But I thought that was super helpful, in particular with this Bucky stuff that we're talking about, because it's just showing his pain in that 6 minutes. Just like, you are reminded that from the get-go, the dude has just had it rough. Like, there's an argument to be made that he might have it the worst outside of maybe Natasha, as you said, Jarret. Like, he really might have it the worst, because he's right. Every time he was alive, he was in a fight. Every time. And so the PTSD stuff is great. He has a list like Cap, which was super interesting. I want to read off this list to our viewers. These were some of the names. It's a book, right? But this is just one page. Rostov is Red Barbarian in the comics. So, Jarret, you want to give a little insight to that character?
Zayne, Google that for me. I don't know.
I was hoping Jarret or Zayne would have that on tap. I just know that it's Red Barbarian because I Googled it. Sorry, Zayne. I wish I would have provided more. Hauser was a Nazi from history. Zemo, we obviously know him. Henriksen, U.S. military soldier who had the Venom suit in the comics. Sorry Tartar from the 1940s was a World War II era leader who tortured his victims. Zayne, do you know any more about that individual? Sorry Tartar.
Did he invent tartar sauce?
Yes, and that's how he totally.
That's how he tortured his victims.
That makes sense.
Wow, this has been a great episode. We love you guys 3000. Have a great rest of your And the other one that I thought was super interesting was the Kaminsky's. So Kaminsky was actually an agent under Jarret, who was a bad guy in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So Feige just continues to not let Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Screw Feige.
Love that. Gosh. Feige!
Curse you, Feige!
Curse you, Feige!
But we find out, too, that Sam is reaching out to Bucky, which I thought was interesting. Probably, I'm assuming, for all this stuff with this third-party organization we don't fully know. He moves to Brooklyn, which I thought was cool. Part of me, when he moved to Brooklyn, I was like, man, are we just going to, like, see maybe Spider-Man swing by in the back? I was kind of hoping a little bit. But then I remembered, like, I don't know. Part of me was just, like, interested in that.
What if,
talked about
what if Max paused for a second, like, frame by frame, and we had, like, Miles Morales for just a frame, a single frame. But it was blurry enough where, like, you couldn't definitively say.
So who has the most poop in their pants? Is it me, Isaac, or Zayne?
Gosh.
Like, that might be.
Isaac,
I think an argument could be made for Isaac, but I'm probably going with Zayne.
And I could see Max doing that, except it'd be like from the first Incredibles when the teacher's trying to prove that Dash was moving.
Like, there! See,
right there. That would be Max. Right there. Did you see it? Did you see it?
Coincidence?
Zayne, that is
not.
Flawless. That is absolutely great. So Mark is Charlie from Always Sunny. Yeah. And I am the teacher from Incredibles. That is like coining. Absolutely. The waitress doesn't know him, which I thought was interesting that nobody knows who the Winter Soldier is. Like, after Endgame, I kind of would have thought that some of those people would become celebrities, but it makes sense in the timeline that he still is kind of not there. Another interesting Easter egg is when they're playing Battleship, he says F4, which is someone unfit for duty. We saw Steve Rogers get that in the first Captain America. And then we kind of get back to Sam. We really talked about the bank scene. We don't need to dig more into that. I got a lot of questions I want to ask us real quick before we kind of get to our top five. And then we get the John Walker scene. We talked about that. Couple questions I want to roll our way. One, were you bummed that Agent 13 and Zemo weren't in it? Or are you like, this was good character building?
It's cool. I'm ready for it. We'll wait.
I wasn't bummed at all, just because sometimes you need that character building to get the payoff in the end game. So I'm absolutely fine with them not being in this first episode, or even maybe a couple episodes. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, Zayne, can you share your thoughts on why you think Zemo has a purple mask?
Well, I don't even remember where I saw someone kind of talking.
You made
about
the
this.
idea up, Zayne. This is your idea.
I
it's
can't
new.
even take
Nobody
credit,
else made it
but
up.
I'll take credit for the Infinity Bros. But
yes,
I saw
you get to be the Infinity Bro
someone somewhere say that. But that Zemo adopts the purple mask, like especially that's what it was. You know, that rather iconic from the comics. But he uses the purple mask to get back at the Avengers because Thanos was their biggest failure, and Thanos was purple. So you wear the purple mask to remind them that, hey, Thanos was your failure, and just to pull that string on them.
That's such a Zemo move too, man.
Right.
Ugh.
I totally feel like that's where they're going, Zane. I'd be willing to bet a small fortune on it. I think that's absolutely right on the money. You told that to us the other day. And I was like, that's it. That's it right there. We solved that. Do we think the therapist is a good guy, or do we think she's just a neutral character? Or is she bad?
Or does she work for the Flag Breakers?
Or the Flag Smashers.
Could be.
Depending on what your Google or Bing or Ask Jeeves machine tells you. Jarret uses Ask Jeeves when he looks up comic book references. That's why
it takes him longer than
you
Zane.
totally break flag. When you have a flag, you totally break it. You don't smash it. You break it.
Yeah, see, this is the problem when you've read as many comic books I have and don't have lightning fast Googling reflexes. Like, some things get lost in the cobwebs.
Yeah, we get it. You've read a lot of comics.
Yeah, we get it.
So
wow,
cool.
You're so cool.
It must be so
edgy.
nice. It must be really tough being so dang cool.
Yeah, actually.
Will Sam become Captain America? I'm saying yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Do you think we will get an appearance by the country or characters from Wakanda?
Yes.
Characters, yeah.
I think Shuri's going to be in it. I think we're going to see
I can
Shuri.
see Shuri. Or definitely characters.
I think we're going to see Shuri.
Maybe not appearance of the country, but I think you can get a character.
Honestly, I think Zemo's gonna pull in a lot of characters. I think the Avengers are gonna want, maybe not revenge, but like they're gonna want to get back somehow at Zemo. So when he pops up, I think we're gonna see a lot of cameos from other Avengers.
In the Legends scenes, Black Panther has a prominent role in that recap. That leads me to believe something in Wakanda is coming. But given the death of Chadwick Boseman, I could see them just saying, no, we need to focus on that story without adding another layer of issues with it. Jarret, you have anything to add?
If they had like pre-recorded footage with him that they knew like was coming with this scene, obviously they didn't know the effects of what he was going through, and they didn't know that he was going to be passing. But like, I'm sure some level of forethought went into like them making this series. If they have any of that footage, I would love to see it in there. Like, I know it would be hard for all of us, but like, man, I would.
They're going to
love
use
see
whatever
them
they
actually
got
with
left of him, Jarret.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think he made it very clear in the way he lived down the stretch. He wanted to be in it as much as possible.
And this is the kind of story that he rooted for, right? Like, they talked about with Ryan Coogler and even his work with Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Like, these are the stories he likes to tell.
I think if he was alive, he would totally be in this series, to be honest with you. I think he'd be making an appearance, which I think is going to be a hard thing to process for some people. And the risk you run with an MCU is like, what happens when somebody dies? What happens when Terrence Howard doesn't want to make less than he's making? You have to pivot to another guy, and can the audience handle that? Somebody dying is a different beast, especially somebody dying of the caliber of what Black Panther is and probably would have been. Will Torres become Falcon?
Not right now. I think
I
that's
agree.
one that they leave. Yeah.
I think he becomes a character like Agent 13.
Yep.
Yeah, I can see that.
He's just part of Sam's universe, and he'll come back later. Who is Aaron Kellerman's player? Jarret, this one's for you because I know you've been talking about this offline.
Well, it's clearly not Flag Breaker. They're trying to make us
It's
think that
not,
it's
but
Flag
it could
Breaker.
be. It could be Flag
It's in.
Smasher.
Maybe
It's Sin.
Flag Breaker is the leader of the Flag Smashers.
That's probably. You know what? Actually, that's probably it.
Well, this has been a great episode. We love you guys 3000. Jarret, go ahead and
That's
say
it, he
that again.
solved
I don't
it.
think we caught that.
Okay. She's got to be Sin. Like, I don't know if it's just the red hair or the fact that I think there's a storyline in which, because we know Red Skull is out there somewhere. Now, do I think he came to Earth and had a child? I have no idea. But I think somehow she's loosely related to the ideology of who Sin is in the comic books, which is the daughter of Red Skull. Now, I don't know if that's a literal daughter or like an ideological daughter of Red Skull. She's a product of Hydra, whatever the case may be. But I think she is Sin. I think they're okie doking us, and she is actually the character's in. Also, shout out to her fantastic performance as Enfys Nest in Solo. Like, I'm so glad they got her in another movie for Disney.
I want that so bad, Jarret. I want that to be real. I just don't see it after WandaVision, but
It's
I
a
want
reach.
it. It's a reach, but I want it, dude. Zayne, Isaac, anything to add, subtract?
I mean, you could definitely do the whole bit of sin, but of tying it around there. But like, if you just look up her, like what her character is, she's doing a reimagined.
Just Google it.
Yeah, well, yeah, just Google it. But
Yeah, it's for the bit, right?
because
Come on.
she's the leader, so she's the female version of Carl Morgenthau, who is Flag Smasher. Right. So I think Flag Smasher, they're gonna leave that as the group, and then yeah, she's gonna be someone else because it wouldn't obviously make sense of, oh, this is Flag Smasher, and then the leader is also Flag Smasher. Like that just doesn't seem like it would
That's
vibe right.
why she's going to be Flag Breaker. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, Zayne. Read it.
Get with it.
For those that don't know, we make fun of Zayne as the residential Google expert. Zayne's actually really smart, but we like telling him that he gets all his information from Google. Serious question. How much racial tension and reconciliation? I talked about that a little bit. How much do you think they're going with this? They talk about this in a lot of the pressers. How deep do you think it will go? How are you feeling about that story arc, Jarret?
It's hard because it's a situation that's pertinent, especially we're recording this 3-4 days after the events of the shooting in Atlanta, right? Like, racial tension.
March 29th, 2021, for those that just go back and listen to it.
Yeah. March 19th. 2021.
Did I say 29 again?
You did.
It's the second time I've done that.
It is. I think that they have to do this intelligently, right? And like, they have the team to do it. Put Ryan Coogler in on this if you need to, but like, they have to address it in a very responsible and it, I don't want to use kids glove. They have to address it in a way where they don't further build the anxiety that's already like at a boiling point in America. And they've done a great job with that in the past, right? Like, Black Panther was such a powerful thing for so many people, and it wasn't so in your face. They've showed us with this with the bank scene, right? Like, the bank scene, as you said, never once was his race brought up. Never once was anything about that brought up. But like, you felt the tension there, and it dealt with things beyond just racial issues. It was socioeconomic status and all these other things. And I think they can handle it responsibly, and they need to continue to handle it responsibly, and they're still going to address it. And I believe that they can do it.
If they deviate from how the bank scene goes, there's going to be issues. I agree.
Yeah. Too much tension right now.
That is how they needed to do it. And I agree. It's a good way. Zayne, Isaac, anything to add?
Take this with a grain of salt. We're four white dudes talking on a podcast. So like,
absolutely. Like, we don't have the answer
mind.
to that solution unless Zayne Googles it. Then we'll have the answer to the solution. Right. No, I know I joke, but seriously, like, I think this is something that people need to expect going into this show. Whether you like it or not, the pressers have said they're going to talk about this. If this is coming as a blindside to you listening to this podcast, sorry, dude or gal. Like, this is part of the culture right now. Hollywood makes it a big deal. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. I'm not going to speak past that. But I will say that it's going to be part of the show. So make sure your expectations do not include Mephisto in this not being brought up, okay? Make sure you avoid those two thoughts processes going into this, all right? You mouth boner! All right, let's head into the top 5. We're going in 3, 2. You're entering the top 5 on the Infinity Bros podcast. Starting now. Every week we like to have a top 5 discussion. By the way, new top 5 bumper this week.
Yay.
Yeah. At the moment of recording, I don't know what it's going to be. Haven't a clue.
Love that.
Like, whoever's listening right now is like, wow, Max really is either
God
really creative or he
intended.
really, really sucks.
It's very ironic because Jarret never has a clue about his top 5 either.
Well, we love you guys 3,000, and we will see you guys later.
Welcome to the Infinity Bros podcast.
That's
Let's
three
do our
different
top
times
five right now.
we should have ended the show right on that time. Like, really well done, Zayne. I mean, we're closing in on 2 hours of a discussion about Falcon and Winter Soldier. We haven't even started the top five.
Love it.
Now, so we do a water cooler discussion where we talk about the things in the previous week or weeks that were relevant to us. And this week, obviously, top 5 moments from Falcon and Winter Soldier. We're not going to do honorable mentions because there's no charity to give away to, as Mark Jones would say. So, Zayne, we'll start with you. What's your number 5?
My number 5, just because of like how irksome it was, and you're just like, I hate this guy. I gotta go with the U.S. agent reveal. Just like, screw this
Same
guy.
dude.
All he did was
my
wink.
top 5, or my number 5 as well. Like, he just like, you turn around and I felt the hatred for him in that moment. I was like, no. Ugh.
Yeah,
That is also my
same for me, dude.
Yes.
Dang.
Yeah, same. Is that yours too,
That's
Jarret?
all of our top. That's pretty awesome, actually.
Well, it's like, it's just, and to add on to it, like, it's great storytelling. That all it takes is that character walking out, and all he has to do is look at the camera a certain way, and he's done his due diligence in episode 1. Props to them. Great job. Number 4, Zayne.
Well, seeing as I went first last time, I just want you guys. It's okay that you copied me, but please have a different list from here on out.
Sorry, Zayne. Yeah, I'll do something different, I think.
Okay,
Yeah, I hope.
Number 4 for me is just that whole opening fight sequence. Like, it cemented stuff coming from like what we had from the movies of showing, hey, like, we can give this level of production quality. And so, like, it's kind of a all-encompassing, but I'm going that whole opening fight sequence just because it was so well done. I was like, this is awesome.
Can I
Let's
go before Zayne next time just to prove that my list isn't the same
hope
as
you
his?
guys
Because
listen.
No. You have a big crush on him, and you're copying him. We don't.
I
wanna
really
do
hope
that.
it's the exact same.
We don't want to break his
Because-
narrative.
that is my number. That's my number 4 as well. The opening scene.
Dang. No, Zayne definitely has to go before you now, moving forward.
Take it.
Yeah, sorry,
Dang it.
Isaac. Dude, you and Holly both have a crush on him. That must make things really awkward. That's super tough.
Yeah,
I have that
Holly
effect.
is Isaac's
I
wife.
mentioned before.
Holly is Isaac's wife. Yes, it does sound as crazy as you think. Both of them have a crush on Zayne. I know. I don't
it's
get
true.
it.
I have that effect.
Don't
on
we all
people.
though?
Don't. Yeah, a little bit.
Who
I do
doesn't?
too. I'm not
I
lying
mean,
to you.
Look at those modeling pictures on theinfinitybros.com. Go to the store, check out the sweatshirts, and there's Zayne's face, and you fall in love.
Okay,
He's just
this is
so
you
cute.
brought it up, so this is the perfect segue. I have to, Jarret. We'll get to your number 4. Nobody cares anyway. Here we go. Okay, my dad absolutely despises Zayne. My dad, like, he doesn't even know who my other friends are. Jarret, my dad has never referenced you once in his life. Jarret doesn't know. My dad doesn't know you exist.
Wow,
My
thanks a
dad
lot,
thinks
Steve.
Zayne is the swine of the earth. Like, my dad thinks Zayne is mutually a horrible like person in my life, but also a loyal and valiant friend that should be protected at all costs. It's like this weird, unique dynamic. And Zayne, for a bit, bought my dad and him binary stars and named them after Zayne and my dad.
So great.
So for eternity, Zayne and my dad will be together in the stars. My mom is such a sweet woman that she looked at me when I told her about this and said, I'm so mad at Zayne that he came up with that idea before me. I'm like, you psychopath of a woman.
I love that.
And so just
That's so
like
good.
when Zayne's modeling pictures came out, my dad gets on Facebook after a long day of work. This is a true story. Long day of work. Gets on. He's like, I'm going to read a couple articles, check out some things. And Zayne's there posing in a beautiful, majestic Infinity Bros sweatshirt. I'll include a link in the show notes if you want to go get one or just see the picture, either or. And he goes, I can't escape this man. Like, you have mentally broken my father in a way that I've never seen before, Zayne. It's remarkable. Well done to you. Well done
Beautiful.
I
love to see it.
it's my peak. Like it.
No, dude. No. I actually think you can go further with my dad. That's
I
the
am.
crazy part.
Oh, I will be.
I know you will.
I'm-
I know. This is like the MCU. Zayne and my dad are the MCU of my personal life.
Snapchat
getting
the
s-
Zane's corkboard.
I'm getting
with a picture
so
of Steve
much,
in the middle.
Yeah, right. I'm getting so much real estate for free inside your dad's head. I'm considering going and getting my realtor's license.
It's a buyer's market right now.
It is a buyer's
it's a
market.
seller's market in the world, but it's a buyer's market in my dad's
That's
head.
right. So contact me afterwards if anyone would like to buy any real estate
Seriously.
in Steve's head.
Props to
It's
you.
fine,
Zane.
Steve. I'm not hurt that you don't even know my name. Mark didn't know I
Jarret,
existed.
what's your Jarret, I would argue he doesn't even know you exist.
Mark doesn't know I exist. That's the worst part.
Mark didn't know you existed. What's your number 4, Jarret? Is it the same as Zane and Isaac?
It's the therapy session, and on top of it, the awesome bit where he like doesn't follow any of her rules. I think it's so fantastically done. Now
He
I'm
does
mad.
follow her rules.
He doesn't.
He
breaks
does.
the
The
law.
guy tried to hurt him first.
He broke it. He hurt the guy, and he broke the law. That's the bit.
Whatever, man. Whatever, dog. You don't get it.
I love you 3000.
Number
Go
4
ahead
for
and
me
do
was
it.
Rhodey. I think Rhodey showing up. I think I'm with you, Isaac. That's the kind of stuff I want to see every episode. Every episode. There should be a surprise cameo every episode, in my opinion. That should be a framework built
Cosmo
into
the
this.
super dog is the next one.
guy.
Howard the Duck.
Howard the Duck was in Endgame. He's in that. Yes, totally. All right, number 3, Zane.
Number 3 for me is just the conversation that Sam and I think it was his sister that they had about like wanting to keep the boat in the house, and she was like she wants to move on and just get rid of it just because life's tough, and Sam's like no, we can keep this, and then how that just segues into the whole bank scene. Like I think that whole like vibe was just like no, like mom and dad built this, we need to keep this, and then she's like well you don't understand, like you've been off doing your own thing, that's not how the world works anymore. And I think that kind of showed that yeah you've been gone for 5 years, like but there was some power in there, I felt like.
A lot of parallels to other stuff,
Yes.
too. Isaac.
So my number 3 is
Is the bank scene.
no, it's not actually. It's basically what Jarret already referenced. Not necessarily the psychologist scene, but like the scene like when it goes to him telling her about it, like how he goes about it. I thought that was hilarious, and I was kind of looking for more. I wanted more
Agreed.
of what Bucky has been doing. So I'm hoping we get a little bit of that, but I mean, I'm sure his arc is moving forward instead of looking back. But I thought that was fantastic, and I wanted more of it.
His stupid smile he
know.
gave them.
Hi.
Oh my
Love
gosh.
I'm
Brilliant.
William Barnes, and
So funny.
what did he say? I'm making shoot, I forget. I'm making amends. Yeah,
Making amends.
I'm making amends. Crappy
Oh
smile
my gosh,
walks
that's
away.
great.
I'm like, if I had a nickel for every time Zane's done that to me.
Ugh, that was good.
Scratches your name off his list.
And then he heads over to Isaac for copying his top 5 list.
Yep.
Steve is circled 20 times.
Jarret, number 3.
My number 3 was the action scene that they opened with. I think it was well done, and it's hard to like pick a specific point out of the action scene. I think it was incredibly well acted. I will say, wild how much he like did not pull punches and straight up murdered everybody.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was not
I thought about
expecting
that. Like,
at
there's
all.
this
I
huge
loved it.
debate online about like, oh, Batman doesn't kill Batman. Blah, 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 blah. Here we in the
I didn't
MCU,
know this was a Batman
people are
and
just
Winter Soldier
slaughtering
movie.
dudes left and right. Like
straight up
Falcon's
just,
just
like,
killing
murders them
everybody.
I loved it.
Does
Like,
not
I
I
love
loved it.
it.
He's a soldier. I loved
Alrighty
it.
then.
I'm fine with
Yeah.
it. He's a soldier.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
He's
No, I
not
thought
a
it was
rich
incredibly well
billionaire
done.
who's an orphan. He's a soldier.
Well, I mean, Tony murders a bunch of dudes in Iron Man 2, so you know. But
I don't get paid enough.
Yeah,
for
well,
this.
he doesn't have a code. He
no, yeah,
he
no,
gets
I'm totally fine
plastered
with him
and
doing
sleeps
it.
with every woman
I'm just
he
saying
sees.
it's
and
not a billionaire
still
thing.
lands happens
just,
to get a wife.
It's just
somehow.
a Batman
I don't know
thing.
how he does it. Number 3 for me is Falcon giving up the shield. This was the jaw-dropping moment to me. I did not see it going this way. I was very floored by that. And I forgive my naivete. I think some people that are listening to this are like, you really didn't see that, you big dumb idiot. I really did not see it going the way it did, that he would give it to the Smithsonian and just happily hand it over to the government for them to use. It's like, it shocked me, but at the same time, it's like, man, that's too realistic. It's just so real. Government convinced you to give it up, and then all of a sudden they pull out.
Seriously. Oh my gosh.
I'm like, that's just so, it's like just so classic United States America. It cracks me up. It's just so good. Too good. Number 2, Zane.
My number 2.
Real quick, before I do my number 2, I also have Bucky making amends, Isaac. That's my number 2.
All right.
So go ahead, Zane.
Well, that number 2 is Bucky making amends.
Amen. Let's go,
Zane.
Zane.
Who now, Zane? Are you copying Max? I don't know.
Oh, who's copying who?
Max just added that in there because he was like, I know this is going to be Zane's number 2, so I'm going to try to throw this in here real quick.
Yeah. You caught me.
No, just the whole leans in, looks in the window, and you're like, oh my goodness, what's he going to do? And just like, hi, I'm making amends. And just walks away. And it's just like, all right.
And then they get arrested.
Yep, and then they get arrested. And I was like, all right, I am fine with that.
I loved it. Isaac, number 2.
My number 2 is Sam's speech. It was just very touching, and I think he communicated very well what the vibe was in that moment. Like, I don't know, you could just feel what he was saying. Like, this symbol is so important that we need to preserve the symbol and like not, I don't know, like taint the memory of Captain America. And then, like you said, I mean, the way they just turn it around and give it to John Walker is just priceless. But man, like that was the moment in this episode that I was feeling like tears coming on. I was like, man, he did such a great job of like honoring Captain America's legacy, and I just thought that was really cool. So that's my number 2.
Jarret, number 2.
This is a little gift for Max, who has to edit this later, as well as our listeners. So I'm going to go ahead and do something for you real quick. Hold on. He's on the moon, and we're getting original sin! Woo! Sorry.
He's on
I
the
love
moon.
You're welcome.
It's like Jarret was like that scene in Dumb and Dumber where he's walking out of the bar. He looks at the newspaper clipping. He goes, "We landed on the moon!" High fives the guy in the hallway. That was Jarret just now. Okay, cool. That was awesome. Isaac, go ahead, number 1. Thanks for that awkward feedback. We're going to keep that whole long pause in that for editing, Max.
Okay, my number 1 is the whole relationship of Bucky and Yori. That was just so well done, and you kind of like, you're wondering, like, they meet in that alley and he knows him obviously, and you kind of like are curious about how this relationship developed in the first place, and the way it plays out is just perfect. And the fact that Bucky wants to be involved in Yori's life and like make his life better for whatever he can do for him, I think that is just amazing. And the fact that he almost doesn't want to tell Yori, I would imagine, because he knows that he's probably gonna lose him as a friend. Also, because then he would have to face his past and stuff like that too. But I feel like that's one of the reasons why he hasn't told him yet, because he doesn't want to lose him as a friend. So I thought their relationship was awesome. Yori's hilarious, and the way he just like gets Bucky that date was awesome. I love that. And Bucky's just like, no, don't, come on, man. And she's just like, yeah, let's do it. Okay. Yeah, I thought their whole relationship was awesome, and that was my number 1 moment from this episode.
Zayner?
My number 1 is Bucky going on a date. Just kidding. No. No, it's got to be the pinpoint of, you get that reveal of when he's friends with Yuri because he killed his son. And when you finally get that gut-wrenching reveal that you're just like, all that kind of floods in. You're like, okay, this is why he's doing that. And like, this is killing him on the inside. I was like, I don't know how you can go anything else. Like, that was such a powerful moment of that episode. But I also had to chuckle because all I could think of during that is from New Girl with Nick Miller when he meets the old Asian guy in the park.
Yes.
That's all I could think of.
Tran.
That's like Tran, yeah. I was like, that's these vibes. It's just like they're just hanging out.
Totally
if they show
vibes.
up at a spa and go to a pool, like you're a great listener, Tran.
Bucky's just, dude, Zane. That is okay.
Great comparison.
Offline, we need to figure out how to make that a TikTok with Bucky's face on Nick Miller's body.
Oh my
Let's get
gosh.
figuring that out, because that's a great TikTok right there, Zane. You just stumbled upon something. I'm dead serious. The four of us need to figure out how to get that done tonight because we got to be the first
That'd
to
be
that on
hilarious.
TikTok. Well done, Zayne. That's one of the best things you've ever contributed to the show.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
Zane's like giving a ton of great stuff, but honestly, that might be number one to me.
I'm on a roll.
You've given some great feedback too. I'm not judging anything else you've done. We're over 2 hours on the show.
Like I said,
all right, here we go.
Utility player. I do it all.
You are, man. Number one for me, you guys already talked about it, so I'll just briefly talk. Falcon fight at the beginning. I thought this is the best action sequence we've seen in TV shows. WandaVision's fight at the end of their series was garbage compared to this. I thought this was great. Absolute trash compared to this. I think
that's a little harsh, but I agree. This one is better.
It's a little harsh. Flying witches above a red backdrop reminds me of another movie called Justice League.
My number one is, you guys already said it. I think it's the relationship between Bucky and Yori. And I specifically the moment where he's staring at that mochi and he's like, my son loved red bean mochi. And he starts to describe the way in which he passed. And when they pan to the side view of Sebastian's stand just like falling apart, holy cow. I'm telling you guys, like I was in tears. I was like, oh, this is heavy. Absolutely well done.
Another moment that got me, sorry, this is just related to that, so I have to piggyback off you, Jarret, is when they're playing Battleship and she starts describing what it would be like for a parent to lose a child, and he's just like, oh, I'm done. Like he just leaves, just gets up and leaves. Like that was a powerful moment. It's like, oh man, yikes, tearjerkers.
Well, we spent over 2 times the amount on this episode talking about the episode. So super fun, super thankful for that. Zayne, back-to-back weeks.
That's
Thank you
right.
for gracing us with your presence. We're grateful for you.
What I'm here for,
Gonna make
someone's got to be the voice of reason.
Too.
You do, and we're going to get on that TikTok, and if you're listening to this, that TikTok will be made by then. We will find a way to do it, no matter how whatever it takes. Zayne, great job. Jarret, I want you to know that if Cap is on the moon at the end of this series, you called it first.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you get all the credit because I'm not
appreciate
piggybacking on that idea. It's crazier than Mephisto.
I'm holding it, man. I'm holding the line. I'm not giving up.
Feige's gonna listen to this episode and then walk over
Screw
to
you, Zayne.
He's gonna walk
Screw
over
you,
to a
Zayne.
big whiteboard and just have to scratch that out now. Like they're
No,
onto
you
it.
know what he scratched out? He scratches out boner, writes up moon, Dogecoin picture next to it. Screw Kevin Feige for WandaVision. Oh my gosh. Isaac, I hope that Scott Higa from the Christian Nerd Podcast thinks this episode is positive enough for him.
I hope so
I
too.
know we've gotten a lot of feedback from him that we're too hot with our takes. We have so much originality.
I hope our hot takes keep him up at night. That's what I hope.
Yeah, I don't know. Between me and Mark, man, he's got plenty of warmth for a long time.
Yeah.
Long time. Isaac, thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Infinity Bros Universe, wherever you listened, however you listened. Thanks for making us part of your day. We're so thankful for you guys. You can check us out on Discord. If you want to keep the conversation going and talk to us directly, this is a great spot to do it. Check out our show notes. There's a link right in there. Just click it. You'll be right in. It's super easy. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as well. Check us out on TikTok. We talked about that as well, where you can check out that funny Tran video. And additionally, if you haven't watched the Snyder Cut, we have an episode talking about the Snyder Cut that will be released the same day as this. I strongly recommend you go check it. If this episode is a 2-hour-long podcast, I have not recorded the Snyder Cut episode yet. I imagine that might be a 3-hour-long podcast. It's going to be insanity.
That's going to be a long one.
I don't know how we're going to break it all down, but it's going to be a long one. We're thankful that you rode with us the whole way, whether you're driving to work or sitting at a boring desk job. However you listen to us, thanks for making us part of your day. Seriously, you guys are awesome. We love you guys 3000, and we will talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Infinity Bros podcast. You can find the Infinity Bros on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Infinity Bros. Feel free to send listener feedback via email at infinitybrospodcast@gmail.com.